All right, let's talk about one of the most jaw-dropping scenes in recent memory. Paul Atreides riding that sandworm in Dune Part 2. We're going to pull back the curtain and declassify just how they did it, because it's this incredible mix of old-school brute force engineering and some seriously clever visual effects that made something impossible look absolutely real.
So here's how we'll break it down. First, the massive challenge they were up against in the desert. Then, the wild machine they built to pull it off. We'll also look at a brand new invention called the sand screen, how they captured a real sandstorm, and finally, how all those pieces came together for the final shot.
Okay, first up, the Impossible Desert Challenge. You got to understand, the script basically laid out a scene that seemed, well, impossible to film for real. I mean, the easy way out is just to make it all CGI. But for a director like Denis Villeneuve, who is obsessed with making things feel real and tangible, easy just wasn't going to cut it.
So this was the fundamental question, right? How do you actually film a guy riding a sandworm, a creature the size of a skyscraper, by the way, going 70 miles an hour through a sandstorm, and make us believe it? Now, the typical Hollywood answer is simple, it's safe, but it had one huge flaw that would have shattered the entire illusion.
So you've got two choices. The standard way, stick your actor in a comfy studio, surround him with green screen, and just add all the effects later. Easy. But the Dune way? Well, that was different. They were all in on authenticity. The whole crew knew to capture that harsh, beautiful, unique light of a desert planet, you actually have to go to the desert. Doing it in a studio would just feel wrong. It would kill the whole vibe.
And here's the big technical reason why. Something called green spill. It's really just basic physics. When you blast light onto a giant green wall, guess what? That green light bounces right back onto everything. The actor's skin, their costume, everything. And in a world like Arrakis, which is all about these warm, golden, sandy colors, even the tiniest hint of that unnatural green glow would just scream fake. It would completely pull you out of the movie.
So a studio was out. That meant they had to go to the real deserts of Jordan. And obviously, they couldn't build an entire sandworm. I mean, come on. But what they could do was build a piece of it. A huge working machine that would mimic the raw power of that ride right out there in the sand.
And this is what they came up with. This thing was a beast of engineering, nicknamed the dog collar. It was a platform about 24 feet wide, sitting on top of a massive truck rig. And listen, this was no simple stage prop. It was a powerful, moving machine, basically designed to act like a piece of a living, bucking creature.
And just look at what this thing could do. It could bank from side to side, turn on a dime, and vibrate like crazy. Seriously, it was probably an actor's nightmare, but a director's absolute dream. It gave Timothée Chalamet a real violent force he had to fight against. He wasn't pretending, he was surviving.
And that right there is the key. The struggle you're seeing on screen, it's 100% real. That machine was actively trying to buck him off. So that tension in his body, the look on his face, that's not acting. That's a guy genuinely trying not to get thrown off a giant, violent machine.
Okay, so they nailed the physical part. The performance is real. But that's only half the problem, right? You still have to deal with the background. How do you shoot this rig in the middle of the desert and then replace the background later without using a green screen? Well, their solution was kind of simple and absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, the entire team, the director, the cinematographer, everyone, they just flat out refused to use a green screen or a blue screen. They were so committed to getting that authentic desert light right that they decided, you know what? If the tool we need doesn't exist, we'll just have to invent it ourselves. And this is it, the sand screen. They built these huge panels and painted them the exact same color as the desert sand around them. The science here is just beautiful. The sun hits these screens, and instead of bouncing back a weird green light, it bounces back a perfectly natural, warm, sand-colored light. So the actor is lit by the exact same light as the world he's supposed to be in. It's genius.
Now, this brilliant idea created a ton of work for the visual effects artists. See, with a green screen, a computer can easily cut the actor out. But when the background is the same color as the sand, you have to do it by hand. It's called rotoscoping. And that means an artist has to manually trace the actor's outline frame by painful frame. We're talking an insane amount of work. But the result? The lighting is absolutely perfect. Flawless.
All right, so check it out. The performance is real, the lighting is real, but something's still missing. To sell the incredible speed and power of this thing, you need a sandstorm. And you can probably guess by now, a fake CGI dust cloud was not going to fly.
The thing is, our brains are just too good at spotting fake CGI dust. It never quite catches the light the right way. So what did they do? They made their own storm.
They brought in these massive industrial fans and dust cannons and just blasted the actor with real sand and a special kind of fine powder. It was messy, but it was real.
And there's a really cool reason why this matters so much. It's a fancy term called volumetric occlusion. Sounds complicated, but it's not. Just think about it. In a real dust storm, every tiny little speck of dust casts an even tinier shadow in the speck behind it. You add up all those billions of tiny shadows, and you get this incredible sense of depth and volume. It's something that CGI has a really, really hard time faking, and it's what tells your brain, yep, that's a real storm.
So, let's put all the pieces of the puzzle together. You've got the violent, physical rig, you've got the brilliant sand screens, and you've got a real, actual sandstorm. Now we can see how they layered all these things together, the practical and the digital, to create the final, mind-blowing illusion.
This chart breaks it all down perfectly. Look at all the stuff that's real. The actor's performance, the lighting on him, the sandstorm, even the piece of the worm he's holding onto. That was all captured for real, on the day. And that's the secret sauce. Because so much of what you're seeing is physically real, it acts like an anchor. It grounds the scene in reality, so when they add the big CGI stuff like the rest of the worm's body and the background, your brain just buys it. It all feels real.
And that really leaves us with this one last question. The best movie magic isn't about faking everything, it's about blending what's real with what's impossible. So, does knowing how they did all this, does it ruin the magic for you? Or does knowing about the insane engineering, the brilliant problem solving, and just the sheer hard work that went into it, does that actually make you appreciate it even more, not just as a special effect,